战场归属投降，那便以杀念克之。
多年难遇的新生稳定消失，本座怎会放过？
Wang Lin sat in the lotus position inside that cave. He was motionless. It was as if he had always been there. On the outside, time quickly passed by. In the Sky Demon country, Sky Demon City had already been rebuilt 10 years ago. Its size and scope was the same as it was before. The Imperial Palace still stood, and the large square was back too. The giant demon drum was still on the square. 10 years of time flashed by in an instant. The residents of Sky Demon City dodged the catastrophe 10 years ago, but what they saw would be something they would never forget in their lives. The rumor of a cultivator named Wang Lin was still spreading across Sky Demon City. The boat was no longer there, and even the people from the boat were gone. There was no longer anyone playing the zither. The young man that once drank with Wang Lin was currently standing above a pavilion in the Imperial Palace. Beside him was a girl. She was very beautiful, but there was a mischievous expression on her face. If Shuligua were here and he saw the girl, he would be drooling and would then pounce at her while shouting, "Little beauty, your big brother Shu is back." That young man let out a sigh and muttered, "Strange. It has been 10 years since that little guy disappeared. Even with the 5 ancestors working together to check with their divine senses, they can't find a trace of him. It is as if he left this demon spirit land. The capital of Sky Demon City. After the city was rebuilt, there was a very glorious mansion built on the east side. This mansion had a giant plaque with 6 large characters. Earth Vice Commander-in-Chief S Mansion. There were countless servants inside the mansion, and there were fake mountains everywhere, making it very elegant. A burly man wearing a Commander-in-Chief robe was standing next to one of the fake mountains in the yard. He looked up into the sky and let out a sigh. Behind the burly man stood 3 men. These 3 men were all wearing the armor of demon generals, and they all stood there motionlessly and had very respectful attitudes. "Brother Wang, where did you go?" The burly man let out a long sigh. Inside the cave, Wang Lin hadn't moved at all in these 10 years. He still sat there as if he was a statue. In his body, the refining inside the origin soul cocoon slowly ended and a shocking aura slowly spread out from the cocoon. After an unknown amount of time, a crack suddenly appeared on the origin soul cocoon. This crack was very thin and the cocoon gently split. Shortly after, another crack appeared, and soon more cracks appeared across the cocoon. Even more cracks appeared all over the cocoon until it finally shattered. The moment it shattered, rays of grey light came out from within. Then a newly born origin soul slowly floated out from the cocoon. This origin soul was no longer transparent but completely solid. There was almost no difference between it and the flesh. The ascendant crystal was slowly turning inside the origin soul. For an ascendant cultivator, their origin soul is their domain. This is the true state of a domain after it enters the body. After the origin soul flew out, the shattered cocoon immediately melted into nourishment specifically for the origin soul and was absorbed by the origin soul. Once all of it was absorbed, the origin soul sat down in the lotus position. At the moment his origin soul sat down, Wang Lin's body trembled, and for the first time in 10 years, he opened his eyes. Wang Lin muttered to himself, "Ascendant." Then his eyes lit up brighter than ever before. After 700 years of cultivation, he finally achieved the Ascendant stage. Ascendant cultivators were top-tier existences in any rank 6 cultivation countries. Even in rank 7 cultivation countries, Ascendant cultivators were still considered powerhouses. Wang Lin was in Ascendant Enlightenment for 10 years and had other harvests as well. At this moment in the Black Tower located in the ancient battleground, 2 ghostly lights suddenly lit up inside the helmet on the top floor of the tower. He has just reached the Ascendant stage, so his origin energy hasn't completely fused with his body yet. It will take him 49 days to complete this process, and this window is something I have waited 10 years for. The ghostly light inside the armor flashed and then thundering roars came from outside the Black Tower. At this moment, a giant, black vortex suddenly appeared in the sky. This vortex was too large. When it spun, it was as if it could absorb everything in the world. The sky changed color and even the countless souls in the ancient battleground began to tremble. The ghostly light from the tower shined brightly as a powerful divine sense spread out from the tower and quickly covered the entire ancient battleground. The ground at some parts of the battleground loosened and soon several black bones flew out from underground into the air. These small bones quickly fused in the sky and formed a black bone arm. The black bone arm slowly flew toward the tower and stopped below the vortex. I haven't gathered much power, so I can't casually waste it. Also, his current location is one of the places I don't wish to go. The ghostly light from the armor flashed again and one arm from the armor broke off. It gave off a burst of demonic flame before flying out of the tower and straight toward the bone arm. The moment the armor touched the withered arm, it immediately attached itself to it. The moment the armor was attached, the arm became completely different than before as powerful bursts of demonic spiritual energy filled it. Go, bring back the origin energy. The arm trembled before disappearing into the vortex. Only ascendant cultivators have origin energy inside their bodies. Too bad I'm too seriously injured to pull the origin energy out of cultivators who have already integrated the origin energy into their body from this far away. I can only choose to attack those who just made a breakthrough to steal their origin energy. The ghostly light from the armor that was now missing an arm guard gradually dimmed until it finally went out. Wang Lin was sitting in the lotus position inside the cave. He let out a breath of foul air and stood up. He had been sitting there for 10 years, so there were a lot of popping sounds before his body returned to normal. After he loosened his body, his expression suddenly changed and he looked up into the ceiling of the celestial cave. At this moment, a black vortex silently appeared. This is as Wang Lin's eyes narrowed. He had been in this cave for a very long time and had never seen this vortex before. The timing of this vortex was too good. It appeared right after he reached the ascendant stage. Wang Lin had a cautious nature, so when he saw the vortex appear, he immediately dashed for the gate of the cave. Just as he moved, the vortex suddenly sped up and thus increased its size. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he slapped his bag of holding and without any hesitation took out the cave token. His hand formed a seal, and soon his body became faint and was about to disappear. At this moment, a black bone arm wearing armor came out from the vortex and viciously swiped at Wang Lin. This swipe caused Wang Lin's disappearing figure to tremble, but then he instantly disappeared. The black bone arm paused for a moment before going back into the vortex, and the vortex disappeared. There was a distortion in the sky above an endless plain in the fire demon country, and Wang Lin stepped out of it. His expression was gloomy. Anyone who came across such a strange scene right as they reached the ascendant stage wouldn't feel happy. At the moment he used the token to teleport away, the arm interfered with the teleportation and caused a change. He spread out his divine sense and found that this place was completely foreign to him. Just at this moment, a black dot appeared in the sky. This black dot spun at an unimaginable speed and in almost an instant turned into that giant vortex. The vortex appeared in complete silence. Even divine sense wasn't able to detect its appearance ahead of time. It was as if there was nowhere the vortex didn't exist. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy as he stared at the vortex. This time he didn't run. He wanted to see how much power that arm inside the vortex had. Almost at the moment the vortex appeared, the armored bone arm came out and reached toward Wang Lin. No wind or clouds moved with this grab. There were no fluctuations showing signs of spells being used. This grab was almost as if a mortal was waving his arm. Wang Lin frowned slightly, then he raised his right hand and for the first time he used the finger of death at the ascendant stage. The black light was 10 times larger than before, and there were rings of ripples inside it. The black light charged out like thunder and landed on the bone arm. At this moment, an astonishing amount of demonic spiritual energy came out from the armor. This demonic spiritual energy was also solid and immediately blocked the finger of death. However, the demonic spiritual energy underestimated Wang Lin's finger of death. Perhaps if Wang Lin wasn't at the ascendant stage, then the finger of death would immediately have shattered when facing this demonic spiritual energy, but now Wang Lin was using ascendant level cultivation to activate the finger of death. Although the black light was stopped, the death energy within couldn't be stopped. At the moment the demonic spiritual energy and death energy collided, the demonic spiritual energy dissipated as if it had been absorbed by the death energy. All of this happened in an instant. Just as Wang Lin sent out the finger of death, he immediately noticed an invisible force coming at him. This force was like a gentle wind, but at the moment it landed on his body, his expression changed greatly. He immediately noticed that his newly formed ascendant origin soul was about to be blown away with this wind-like invisible force. Even his mind wasn't able to resist at all, and even his right hand slowly lowered. His origin soul gradually drifted from his body and was about to leave. But when a sleepy feeling appeared inside his body, Wang Lin's eyes became cold. Because his origin soul was about to leave his body had stiffened and he was rapidly losing consciousness. At this moment, he didn't panic and instead became filled with killing intent. He was Wang Lin. He even dared to defy the heavens, he dared to even kill the heavens, so how could he be bewitched by this mere spell? Wang Lin had a heart of slaughter, and at this moment, his heart of slaughter and his killing intent collided, resulting in a powerful slaughter aura. A low roar came from his mouth, and monstrous slaughter aura came out from his eyes. Under the power of this slaughter aura, his origin soul that was already halfway out of his body was forced back in. After his origin soul returned, Wang Lin coldly looked at the arm. No matter who you are, don't mess with me. Wang Lin took a step back, and at the same time, he used several teleport spells at once. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared. The bone arm wasn't scary at all. What was scary was that wrist guard. The finger of death Wang Lin used to scout the situation allowed him to see through the wrist guard. There were many mysterious people in the demon spirit land. Wang Lin had just reached the ascendant stage and he required a few days for his origin soul to completely fuse, so he didn't want to get into too much trouble right now. At the moment Wang Lin left, a soft exclamation came from the Black Tower in the ancient battleground. No wonder he is a heaven-defying cultivator. He was able to forcibly resist my heavenly demon wind with his heart of slaughter. But the better you perform, the more interested I am in your origin energy. In the demon spirit land, those people that cultivate the way of the ancient demon can't form origin energy. Origin energy only appears when you cultivators reach the ascendant stage. In these countless years, almost every cultivator who reached the ascendant in this demon spirit land had their origin energy devoured by me. You will be no exception. Wang Lin reappeared after teleporting. This place was a desolate area without any mountains or water. There were only withered trees everywhere. However, his eyes immediately narrowed as he noticed some restrictions in the distance. What the hell was that arm? Wang Lin frowned as he flew toward the restrictions in the distance. Soon he arrived at the place the restrictions were located. This place was even more desolate than the one before. The ground here was filled with cracks due to how dry it was, and there was nothing abnormal about this place. The restrictions protecting this place weren't intricate, but they won in terms of quality. There was no less than 1,000 restrictions here, and they were all interlinked, so activating one of the restrictions meant activating them all. Although it was rough, it was still effective. Even a demon general would find it difficult to enter by force. Even if they could, it would take time to do so. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense. With his cultivation and knowledge of restrictions, these restrictions didn't interest him. He was not interested in what was inside and was about to leave when the black vortex suddenly appeared, causing Wang Lin's eyes to narrow. It's like a ghost haunting me. Wang Lin's eyebrows furrowed hard and his eyes became even colder. This black vortex kept appearing before him, and this made a hint of killing intent appear inside Wang Lin's heart. He let out a cold snort and quickly sank directly into the countless restrictions. With Wang Lin's understanding of restrictions, he could break restrictions at the same level as the ones inside the celestial cave, so the restrictions before him presented no challenge. With just a glance, countless deductions flashed through his eyes. Then his body quickly disappeared into the restrictions. The function of these restrictions, aside from preventing outsiders from entering, was also to create illusions to hide what was inside. However, Wang Lin had broken countless restrictions, so he was able to easily move through them without activating them. After going through the restrictions, the scene before him became vastly different from what he saw outside. This place was still a plain, but it had been artificially divided into plots of land and emitted a strange fragrance. Hey! Wang Lin was surprised, as he wasn't expecting something like this. What was more surprising was there was only one thing being grown here. Celestial Ascension fruit. Wang Lin's expression became a bit strange. At this moment, the surrounding restrictions began to collapse as the black bone forced itself through the countless restrictions and reached in. The Celestial Ascension fruit isn't a rare fruit. Although it isn't common, it is even possible to get it on planet Suzaku. These fruits are only the size of a baby's fist, and they are completely purple and give off a strange fragrance. If a person were to eat one, they would become excited and feel extreme pleasures. This is why this fruit is called Celestial Ascension fruit. If a mortal were to eat one, they would become addicted, but it wouldn't affect a cultivator much. However, there are cultivators who enjoy eating the fruit and losing themselves in that intoxicating feeling. In the mortal world, only the rich and powerful can get Celestial Ascension fruits from cultivators after paying a heavy price. Then they can immerse themselves in the intoxicating feeling like they have become celestials themselves. Wang Lin looked at the plain. It looked like this plain was endless, and it was filled with Celestial Ascension fruits. But Wang Lin wasn't interested in the fruits. At this moment, the armored bone arm broke through the restrictions and arrived here. Thick demonic spiritual energy was released from the armored bone arm and surrounded the area. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he stared at the arm. Then his right hand touched his bag of holding and the celestial sword appeared in his hand. Shu Ligua quickly let out a roar. Ever since his rebellion failed, he had always been very careful. Now that Wang Lin had taken out the celestial sword, he decided that he would definitely achieve some merit today. He has followed Wang Lin for many years and was very familiar with Wang Lin's personality. He thought to himself, as long as I achieve some merits, this fiend won't think about what happened back then. Sword hymns came from the celestial sword. A sword was a proud weapon above all other weapons. However, at this moment, the sword hymn that came out contained a dirty meaning. After the black bone arm appeared, it clawed at Wang Lin once more, and the heavenly demon wind gently blew toward him. Wang Lin was already prepared, his eyes turned cold and his heart of slaughter appeared. He quickly swung the celestial sword to send out a ray of sword energy, and the celestial sword itself flew out after the sword energy in the form of a sword dragon. Under Shu Ligua's control, the celestial sword swept toward the bone arm in an imposing manner and became entangled in a battle with the arm. The bone arm didn't even seem to care about the celestial sword and reached out to grab the sword. However, at the moment the arm touched the celestial sword, it released violent sizzling sounds like a piece of ice that had just touched hot iron. Shu Ligua began to laugh proudly. He was about to break free and get another hit off at the bone arm. However, thick demonic spiritual energy came out from the wrist guard and entered the celestial sword. Shu Ligua was startled and wanted to break free, but the bone arm was like a pair of metal pliers that had a tight hold on the sword. Wang Lin coldly looked at everything before him. At the moment that thick demonic spiritual energy was released, Wang Lin raised his right index finger and softly said, "Demonic finger." What was changed this time wasn't his own celestial spiritual energy, but the demonic spiritual energy that was released. Using his ascendant level cultivation, Wang Lin could transform the forces of the heavens and earth. It was different from the death aura that the finger of death gave. This was demonic spiritual energy. At this moment, Wang Lin's right index finger was like a huge vortex, as all of the demonic spiritual energy rushed toward his finger. Soon, a ray of black light appeared at Wang Lin's fingertip. This black light seemed to be able to devour light, and at the moment it appeared, it was surrounded by thick demonic spiritual energy. With a flick of his finger, the black light charged toward the bone arm. Its speed was too quick, so it landed on the bone arm in an instant. After a series of cracking sounds, the bone arm shattered and Shu Ligua quickly moved the sword away. At the moment the bone arm shattered, a symbol flashed on the wrist guard. Then the shattered black bone quickly spread, forming a black halo that was 10,000 feet wide. Demonic spiritual energy filled this 10,000-foot area, creating a prison. Then more symbols appeared on the wrist guard and began to emit the sound of a bell ringing. This sound came from the wrist guard, but it seemed to come from the heavens as it echoed within this 10,000-foot area. All of this happened in an instant. This sound was 100 times stronger than the heavenly demon wind, so the clarity Wang Lin managed to maintain with his slaughter heart immediately showed signs of weakening. Wang Lin's expression was gloomy, and with one step he arrived in the air. His hand formed a seal before turning into a palm that slammed down on the wrist guard. At the moment his palm touched the wrist guard, a monstrous demonic flame burst out from the wrist guard. This demonic flame formed a fist-sized shadow. This shadow had a single horn and was completely black. After it appeared, it revealed a smile of contempt before suddenly opening its mouth and laughing loudly. Wang Lin's origin soul shook, but his eyes became even colder. His right hand didn't stop and he pressed down on the wrist guard. At this moment, the black shadow from the wrist guard let out another crazy laugh. This time the sound was several times more intense than before. This intense sound wave created sonic booms that echoed between Wang Lin and the wrist guard. The sonic booms were only secondary, the real attack was aimed at his origin soul. Thanks to this demonic laugh, Wang Lin's origin soul began to leave his body once more. And his heart of slaughter was about to collapse. The shadow on the wrist guard revealed a dark grin and laughed like crazy once more. Wang Lin bit the tip of his tongue. Rather than retreating, he charged forward and grabbed the wrist guard. Then the celestial spiritual energy inside his body surged into the wrist guard like crazy. At the moment his celestial spiritual energy entered the wrist guard, the demonic laugh disappeared. However, the black shadow also disappeared and entered Wang Lin's body through his right hand. It then turned into waves of demonic spiritual energy that charged at his origin soul. The demonic dance of confusion. Wang Lin's right hand clutched the wrist guard as he quickly fell from the sky, then he sat down in the lotus position on the ground. The demonic spiritual energy moved through his meridians and created bursts of illusions that directly shook his origin soul. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a ghostly light as he looked at all the celestial ascension fruits around him. Without any hesitation, he waved his hand and all of the celestial ascension fruits within 10,000 feet flew off the branches and into the sky. There was no less than 10,000 of these fruits. It was as if a small portion of the sky was covered by these purple fruits. At this moment, the demonic spiritual energy inside him was luring his origin soul to fly out of his body. Wang Lin's face was gloomy as he closed his hand. Suddenly, all of the fruits in the sky shattered and their juices were extracted. Then the juices were all gathered together before they were condensed, and condensed again. In the blink of an eye, the juices of more than 10,000 celestial ascension fruits was condensed into one drop. A drop of blood-red liquid. Looking at this drop of blood-red liquid, Wang Lin didn't hesitate to grab it and throw it into his mouth. At the moment the liquid entered his mouth, Wang Lin's entire body shook. The mysterious feeling of the celestial ascension fruit increased countless fold and exploded inside Wang Lin's mind with a thunderous roar. Under this powerful stimulation, Wang Lin's mind was at its peak level of excitement. He suppressed his excitement and used it as power for his body. At this moment, his origin soul, which was about to be lured out by the demonic spiritual energy, suddenly stopped. Wang Lin's eyes were bloodshot and the veins on his head were bulging as if he was enduring great pain. Scram! Wang Lin let out a low roar. This sound was like a thunderous roar that echoed across the land. Then a black shadow was forced out of his body through his right hand. However, this black shadow was extremely stubborn. When it was half forced out, it began to laugh and struggled to re-enter Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin's expression was fierce as the mysterious feeling from the celestial ascension fruit filled his body. This gave his body unimaginable power, and while he had to endure pain, it also gave him intense pleasure. The pain and pleasure were both suppressed by him. The suppression of these two feelings created an unimaginable explosive force. Scram! Wang Lin suddenly raised his head and his hand. Then a force exploded from his body and the black shadow was forced out of his body. At the moment the black shadow was pushed out and sent flying into the air, Wang Lin charged toward it with bloodshot eyes. He grabbed the black shadow and then the celestial spiritual energy from his body surged out like crazy and entered the black shadow. The black shadow let out miserable groan as it collapsed. It turned into fine, silky strings as it escaped from Wang Lin's hand before reforming itself 100 feet from Wang Lin and giving Wang Lin a vicious stare. But Wang Lin completely ignored that gaze. At this moment, the feeling from the fruits was about to explode. Still under the fruit's influence, Wang Lin took a step forward and without any hesitation pointed his pinky at the black shadow. Underworld finger. He used his ascendant level cultivation to bring out the underworld finger. The finger pointed at the underworld to activate the domain inside Wang Lin's origin soul. This finger contained the life and death domain. It contained all of Wang Lin's will. This finger reached its peak under the effect of the celestial ascension fruit. This finger caused the world to change colors. This underworld finger was a spell infinitely close to a low-quality celestial spell, so a large portion of the sky began to collapse and shatter. This one finger was life and death. The shadow with a horn revealed a look of disbelief. It let out a scream and wanted to flee, but the finger arrived. The black shadow's body paused and immediately collapsed. An angry roar came from the armor inside the black tower located inside the ancient battleground. Then a powerful wall rushed out and merged with the void. After withdrawing that finger, the restriction created by the demonic spiritual energy within 10,000 feet disappeared. Wang Lin's right hand was still gripping the wrist guard. Crazy amounts of demonic spiritual energy came from the wrist guard as it tried to break free, but Wang Lin's right hand held it tightly. He spat out a mouthful of origin energy and it fell on the wrist guard. Then the origin energy turned into a spiderweb and sealed the wrist guard. Then he casually put the wrist guard inside his bag of holding. Wang Lin's eyes were still red as the effect of the celestial ascension fruit wasn't over. An intense battle intent had been born inside Wang Lin's body. This battle intent was extremely powerful and it was impossible to suppress. Wang Lin waved his right hand and the celestial sword flew back and landed in his hand. At this moment, Shuligua didn't dare to speak as the current Wang Lin made his heart tremble. Wang Lin's eyes were completely red as he looked at the ground below him. The amount of celestial ascension fruits he had absorbed was only 1/10 of all the fruits here. He reached out toward the ground with his early stage ascendant cultivation and caused the ground to tremble. Then countless fruits flew off the trees and went toward him. Nearly 100,000 celestial ascension fruits were stored away inside his bag of holding. At this moment, Wang Lin could no longer suppress the battle and killing intent in his heart. He let out a roar and was about to leave. But just at this moment, a cold snort filled with anger came from the void. It landed directly inside Wang Lin's mind. Wang Lin's mind trembled, and then he coughed out a mouthful of blood and fell from the sky. After he landed, his head jerked toward the sky and his eyes revealed powerful killing and battle intent. He couldn't help but be injured. On a normal day, if Wang Lin's mind was injured like that by just a cold snort, he would immediately escape. However, he was different right now, and there was a hint of madness in his eyes. Not only did the injury in his body not decrease his battle intent, it actually made him even more crazy. He slapped his bag of holding and devoured a large amount of pills. With one step, he charged out. Although he was crazy, his consciousness was still there. When the cold snort came, he vaguely felt where it came from and directly charged there. Kill! The only thought in Wang Lin's mind was to kill. The killing intent that was removed when he turned into a mortal exploded once more thanks to the stimulation of the celestial ascension fruit. The fiend that made the Sea of Greed and Jiao tremble had awakened. Wang Lin's body moved like a flaming meteor across the sky, and he charged directly at the direction where he vaguely felt that cold snort come from. Another cold snort came from the tower in the ancient battleground. This snort contained disdain and killing intent.